This video is a follow-up to the one I did last week on eternal marriage. And the reason it's a follow-up is because I think I was fairly clear on it. Nevertheless, there's been a lot of questions about how a lot of people, quite possibly from the Hindu type background, are questioning the necessity for marriage, saying that according to their ancient scriptures and many enlightened masters, that marriage is more of a distraction to your spiritual development than if you are fully 100% dedicated to your spiritual path. And I wanted to make something clear in this follow-up. That is not true. First and foremost, it's like I'm not comparing myself to Jesus, but there's a comparison in Scripture where he was asked a lot of things like that. And this is why in the Bible it's called the New Testament. He provided information and teachings that superseded the original teachings. Not necessarily causing those other teachings to be out of date or invalidated or anything like that, but that in fact it was a higher teaching, that it would be like going from first grade, second grade, third grade, etc., etc. You're not denouncing your former grades. You're just moving on to a higher grade, a higher understanding. And in eternal marriage is the final step that I am aware of in the physical existence reality. A lot of people teach, like Buddha and stuff, that you can cease the wheel of samsara once you become enlightened. Well, this isn't true at all. That's a teaching that was assumed to be true, but it wasn't. That enlightenment is a major step for sure, but not the final step of what needs to be accomplished in this, either in this physical reality or in some other physical reality very similar to this reality. And so I just want to, I guess, just answer everyone's question without going into details and everything, because it's like saying, well, where are your details? Where are you going to find the information to back up what you're saying? Well, you're going to have to find that information from God, since it isn't really written anywhere that I am aware of. And so I have never started this process of teaching and making videos. I never started this process based upon I am going to teach and reinforce the teachings that have been done throughout the ages. But instead, the reason I started doing this is because I started, after 20, 30 years of a devout Christian, I started to receive visions and revelations and personal answers to prayers and things like that did not exactly coincide with the teachings that we currently have in Christianity. And that happened also in Hinduism and all sorts of spiritual teachings. And so the one thing I noticed early on was that what I'm teaching doesn't destroy for the most part, it does not destroy the teachings before, but in fact puts it together in such a way that it makes sense. I'm reminded of the Patanjali writings were something of the nature of, this is a science and this is logical writing, and it's not a religion or something of that nature. And I guess I'm saying something very similar, that with the caveat that it is in fact spiritual, but that it makes sense of all the things that don't make sense in your mind. The problem is you have to have enough of the information from all the different sources, because every religion and every faith, including Native American Indians here in the United States and down in Australia, and folklore and stuff like that, witchcraft, for instance. When I say witchcraft, I'm talking about the study of nature and how you can use, I'm not going to get off on that tangent, but you can use the herbs and spices and the way the world works to your advantage. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. That's like saying, well, you have to let the earth do what it does. And of course, you would starve to death, because as human beings, our food doesn't just naturally grow on the vines and we just go out. No, we have to cultivate the earth. And I mean, that's the way it has been. I mean, that's the way it has been since the creation of mankind. And so to denigrate a section, if you will, of witchcraft that is not dedicated to evil, it's very valid. And you can use that good part, as well as Hinduism, Christianity, and all the other sources. And the things that I am teaching, if you were to put them all together, then the things that don't make sense will make sense to you. So when I talk about eternal marriage that starts here in the physical realm, what I'm saying is that is the final step, as far as I'm aware of in my life thus far, that needs to be accomplished before the wheel of samsara is in fact over. And then where you go from this life after you've accomplished that, I don't rightly know, but I do believe that it is just another reality that, but you don't have to live in this hellish reality to test yourself further. You've already passed every test and every thing that was necessary to grow and build yourself in the right direction. So one of the things I wanted to bring up because of this, these questionings, I again dug a little deeper into the issue of marriage between a man and a woman. And I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. Now I'm going to tell you one in particular, but they're all in varying degrees saying the same thing. And one of them I watched was a woman by the name of Danica Patrick. She used to be I would say a successful race car driver, but I think she was initially promoted because she was a woman race car driver. But she could hold her own. I don't think she ever really was number 1 or 2 or 3, but she was right up there. So she must have been good at what she did. And then, my throat is getting dry. But then she parlayed that success into having a successful podcast and YouTube videos and stuff like that. And while she interviewed about a year ago, I was watching the video, a person that would be classified as an alpha male. And he had a beard, and stuff like this. And he was very eloquent, very well spoken. And the interview went on for about an hour, and I watched it. And they were talking about marriage. And he would always refer to women in his life, how they had to fulfill this and they had to fill that and da. Otherwise, they weren't worthy of his success, because obviously he was successful. I don't know what he was successful at, but he was, and he's a millionaire and stuff like that. Well, Danica Patrick is also, I would assume, wealthy and very successful. And she too spoke about that as if both of them were expert in their field. And I would say Danica is quite familiar with all the issues of marriage and failed marriage and stuff like that because of her podcasting and interviewing so many people. I hope I'm not boring you. I'm getting to the point. But in the end, I started listening to them and thinking, neither one of them have a damn clue about marriage. They have a clue about physical marriage, where the biological man and a biological woman and the issues of marriage and stuff like that. Neither one of them have a forgive me if I start using profanity, but sometimes I use very colored profanity to make my point. And so forgive me if I go down that path today, but I feel like that's what's going to happen. So cover your ears if it starts burning your eardrums. But neither one of them understand what I'm talking about. And I have a feeling that neither do you. And that's because people don't understand the spiritual nature of marriage and what I am talking about. Because I am not talking about a physical marriage. I'll delve into it a little bit, but I'm not talking about that. It looks the same on the outside, but it isn't the same thing. And people like both of them, including Danica Patrick, have this desire. They like they've lost out, like they don't have that perfect marriage. And I would say that what they're referring to is my marriage, what I have with my dear wife. They wish that they had something like that, because that is so freaking rare, and it is incredibly nice. I mean, it's like your heart and your soul, and if you can imagine, and I think a lot of you can, going down the spiritual path, you can imagine being an enlightened master and just having this relaxed mode of samadhi and meditation, and you do give a shit about the world and what it's burning down and going to hell in a handbasket. You don't fucking care. And the reason you don't care is because, as an enlightened Zen master, you know what reality is. And your focus is on teaching a few people in the world the truth about spirituality. And you know that there's nothing you can do about the outside world. But you're so calm in the face of death and destruction and annihilation and wars and everything else. You're just cool, calm, and collected, and you're unfazed by all of these happenings. Now that you can imagine, because you've studied spirituality so much in your life so far. But let's take that a step further, what I'm talking about in marriage. You take that same calm, cool, collected person. And I want you to imagine this, because you need to imagine this scenario before you'll start to understand what the hell I'm talking about, okay? You need to imagine that cool, calm, collected Zen master that is unfazed by anything. And now let's say that Zen master is married. But let's take the marriage and let's put that he has 2 or 3 children. And his oldest child is now involved with drugs and sex and stuff like that, and is going to jail because he or she got caught for doing something illicit. And your wife is so pissed off and screaming, and it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you, you stupid fucking Zen master? You sit there calm, cool, and collected? Fuck you, you son of a bitch. You need to take charge of this family and everything, and you need to do this, and you need to do this. How dare you sit there in your fucking easy chair while your whole family is burning to hell, you fucking asshole? That's reality. Now imagine that. That is what reality is. Because anything less than that is not imaginary, it's delusionary. That there is no fucking way on this earth that you can have a family and a marriage where that isn't going to happen. And if you imagine that it doesn't happen, then you're imagining pink unicorns and things that are impossible and cannot happen. And let me explain this to you for a minute, why that can't happen. Because you have a God, Brahma, you have God. He created this whole fucking reality, and there are people on this earth right now today, in my fucking city, let alone the rest of the whole world, that are killing people, that are raping people. Children are being raped. You've got the whole fucking world burning to the ground. You've got politicians that are corrupt as hell, fucking everything over. You got greedy fucking assholes that are destroying the planet. You've got murdering, rape, pillage, plunder. And there's Brahma that created this whole thing. He can't make a fucking world where everything is zen, calm, cool, collected. All right, all my little children, you shall be calm, cool, and collected. And he's got billions of them flipping him off going, fuck you, you God. I hate you, you piece of shit, making my life so fucking miserable. So God cannot create a family that's fucking perfect. So why on earth would you imagine a family on this earth with a marriage, with children, that's going to be cool, calm, collected, happy? Your children are going to be happy. Your wife is going to be happy. Why would you think that that is even fucking possible? You need to change your thinking and get out of that and recognize that Buddha and Krishna and Jesus and all of these people that you can think of that, well, they were celibate, so they must have been the greatest on earth. No, they didn't get married because they couldn't handle the stress. They couldn't deal with the issues in this world. Now, I'll make an exception for Jesus because he was young when he got killed. And he could have been married beforehand, but he had a special calling that required him to put forth 100% of his effort. And he knew way early on that he was going to be murdered at 33 years old. So why would anyone that knows they're going to be murdered at 33 years old be so damned irresponsible as to get married, have children, and know that you're going to abandon them because you're going to get murdered? Well, I'm telling you, you wouldn't get married. So there are exceptions. But does that mean that he didn't get married eventually in some other life? Absolutely no. I told you in the last video that in fact he did get married, and in fact he is married. I don't have to ask the question. I know it's true. So the reason these individuals talk about celibacy and the highest order is to not be married and marriage is the quickest way to lose spirituality, it's because they're not ready for it. They don't have the proper mindset. They don't have the understanding of spirituality. They haven't got to that point. You need to recognize, and this is what I'm trying to teach you, that the marriage between a man and a woman has to be successful in including being enlightened and all these things before the wheel of samsara is over, before you escape this physical reality because there's nothing more here for you. You have to go through that phase. If you don't want to go through that phase, you don't have to. You can stay here until there's no more universe. You can do that when the kalpa of time is over. You'll be reincarnated numerous times. If that's what you want, then there's nothing wrong with that either. But I personally want to learn the most I possibly can, go to the highest levels that I can possibly go to, become one with God. That's what I want. And why do I want it? Because I have a modicum of the love of God within my heart and soul that powers and drives me to that end. And I was going to talk about love in my next video, but this is, let's say this is maybe not my next video. I'll try to make another video in a couple of days because I'm going out of town at the end of this week for a couple of weeks, so I won't be able to make any videos up to visit my family and children and stuff like that. But make no mistake, this marriage thing is the coup de grace. It is the last step in a long step that you have to start early on. When I talked about this Danica Patrick video, it was kind of funny and interesting. Well, funny, but hurtful funny. That she's like she's 43 years old, I believe, something like that. And she says, well, I've got an insurance policy because when I was 33 years old, I froze my eggs and stuff so I could be a mother and have children and everything. And it's like, if I was in front of her and that guy and stuff like that, I would say, are you out of your fucking mind? That ship has sailed. There is no fucking way that you can do that. You don't realize you're thinking, when I say you, I'm speaking about Danica Patrick, you're thinking as an eternal being, but not realizing you are in a physical human body that's going to fucking die pretty soon. When I say pretty soon, maybe you live to be 100 years old, but whatever, you're 43 fucking years old. You can't get what you want. What you got is what you tried for. You are a successful race car driver. You are extremely wealthy. You have podcasts. You probably have fun doing whatever it is. But don't sit around reminiscing that you want this beautiful, perfect marriage where you have a lifelong friend and partner that you have fun with and that you raise children and everything. You're fucking crazy. You're out of your fucking mind. It can't fucking happen. You're too fucking old. Your body is incapable of getting what you want. Reality is created this way. You need to accept the fact that that ship has sailed. You need to accept the fact that what you have is what you wanted. You can't have this too. It's not possible. If you had $1 trillion fucking dollars, you couldn't have this. It doesn't matter. There's nothing you can do to have this because you have that and time has passed. Let me let me interject another thing, because I was in her shoes, so to say. My whole life I wanted to be wealthy. I wanted to be extremely wealthy. I grew up poor and I wanted to be wealthy. I followed the spiritual path ever since I was a child, but I still wanted to be wealthy, and I determined that no matter what, I was going to do whatever it took to get wealthy. Well, of course, I didn't realize at the time that what it took was to basically sell your soul to the devil. At least for me. At least for me. Other people might become financially wealthy, but for me, that couldn't happen. And now, do I reminisce? Do I reminisce about the wealth that I don't have? Well, kind of. But my wife has asked me, I don't know, 10 years ago, and put me in my place several times by going, okay, think about this, John. If you could go back in time and become a wealthy billionaire, would you rather have that or what you currently have? And every single time, without even hesitation, I say, I wouldn't trade what I have for all the wealth in the world. You could make me the ruler of the planet. You could make me the god of this world. You could tell me everything is mine. You could say, John, you could be the god of this world. Would you trade that for what you currently have? And I would say, not even in a heartbeat would I accept that. That is worthless compared to what I have, because I have the perfect marriage. I have children that love me and I love them. I have enough money to survive and to live and to make my ends meet and stuff like that. Because God has blessed me in that manner, and that's what I wanted. I always wanted the spiritual path, but I thought I wanted the wealth path. And what happened, I was probably 40 years old, maybe just over 40 years old, when it was just the shocking truth started to set in, that I started to think about accepting the fact that I'm never going to become wealthy. Because there are supernatural things in play in my life, as well as everyone's, that destroyed every opportunity for me to become wealthy. I would go up like this, and I would make tons and tons of hundreds of thousands of dollars on my way to making millions of dollars, and then bam, it would just drop like a rock for about a year and a half, and I'd lose it all, and then back up, and then bam, it would go down. Lawyers, lawsuits, everything's going to hell in a hand. I did that probably 3 or 4 times before I just said, okay, enough is enough. I get the message here. It's not going to work for me. And it hurt to the core. To the core, it hurt that I wasn't going to become wealthy. Well, you know what? People like Danica Patrick and this alpha male guy and all this kind of stuff, you're not going to have what I have. You have to accept that maybe your desire to have that is so strong that you can work towards that in this life, and then maybe in your next life you can have what I have. But it has to start early. I met my wife when I was in high school. I honestly cannot imagine how difficult it must be in today's world to find your perfect soulmate, so to say. But when you're in high school, I mean, like you're in a school with thousands of students, thousands, if not hundreds, of women that you can meet on a daily basis. Whereas today, you can't meet hundreds and hundreds of people to find out what's right for you. And so, yeah, it's got to be extremely difficult in this day and age. I honestly don't know how you'd do it. But getting back on the path of a spiritual type marriage, it follows all the same rules that these people, I identify in their counseling and coaching and talking about the issues and the problems and how men are different than women and all this kind of stuff. All these sorts of things are true. But you have to add in, if you're looking for this spiritual marriage that is perfect, you have to add in there a few other issues. And the one that I mentioned last time is friendship. You have to have friendship. If that isn't the cornerstone of your marriage, it will fail to rise to the level of what I'm talking about, okay? Now, you can add all the other things like the man has to do this and the woman has to do that and this, take and give and take. And all these physical things in this physical reality are true also. Just like a spiritually enlightened Zen master has to eat or he will freaking die. Well, it's the same thing in a marriage. It will die if there's not intimacy. It will die if there isn't compromise. It will die if you don't insert the greatest amount of love. Some of the issues that make this marriage that I'm talking about work and become perfected is something that you have to learn early on. It's really, really, really critical that you do this. And that is, you have to recognize and trust your spouse wholeheartedly, 100%. That if you go to your spouse and say whatever it is that might hurt their feelings, you have to know that your spouse is not going to go, well, it's up, I'm done, I'm not going to deal with this anymore, I'm going to get a divorce. If that is in your head anywhere, it isn't going to work. You have to get that out of your head no matter what. Now, I recognize that men will beat their wives up and it's like, well, the wife will go, yeah, I'm not going to go through this. Well, okay, that's fine. But that man that beat his wife up is never going to be spiritually enlightened either. So you might as well throw in the towel in that respect. That was never going to work. The man has to be damn near perfect, as well as the woman damn near perfect. And does that mean that there's no arguments or the children don't go to jail? No, not at all. Not at all. That shit happens. It took me, oh my gosh, my youngest child must have been, I don't know, 34, 35 years old before I would say all of my children crossed the Rubicon where they could see, you know what? I love my parents. I love my father. Yeah, it was very hard at home and this and that and everything else. But you know what? Yeah, looking back on it, it's really good. I have a wonderful family at this point in my life. I have 2 daughters and 2 sons. And they are absolutely wonderful. My oldest daughter was a living hell when she was a teenager and in her youth. Just horrible to deal with. And I remember one time having a talk with her and saying, you know what, you are, and I'm a spiritual person and this is how I talk to her. I go, you know what, when I was a kid living on a ranch, I used to teach snakes how to not bite me and to be nice and gentle and everything. And what I did was I would take the snake, and I had these welding gloves that I had, and I caught the snakes myself. I lived on a ranch. And I'd put the snake in my hand and come up with my other hand with the glove on, and it'd want to bite me. I even caught rattlesnakes. And you bite there, and I'd slap it. How dare you bite me? And slap it several more times. And, this would go on for days or whatever. Eventually, the snake is like, dude, you're going to die because I will fucking kill you, or you're going to quit biting me. One or the other. Death or not biting. And the fucking snake decided that life was better than death. And so, and I did this with many snakes. And I would sell snakes at pet stores and stuff. Anyway, so yeah, I could carry a snake and it wouldn't bite me or anything after a while because I taught it. And I told my daughter this story and I said, if I can teach a fucking snake how to not bite me, you should be able to change the way you are in this life. Because if a fucking snake, excuse me, can learn something, so can you. She told me years afterwards, she said that was the most hurtful thing she had ever been told, and especially coming from her father. It was earth-shakingly horrible. But she says, you know what? That's the turning point for her. That's what changed her. And she's the one I'm going, well, not she, I'm seeing them all, but that's where I'm going at the end of the week to go visit her. She now has a wonderful life. She's married. All of my children are doing quite well right now. And, but I had to go through a extremely difficult life with my wife and my children and et cetera, et cetera. It was difficult, but I got through it. That's what everyone's going to have to do. Can you imagine someone like Jesus being married and having to deal with that at the exact same time where he's supposed to be out there teaching the gospel and doing all these things? No, there's no way. Even Jesus couldn't deal with that at the exact same time, which is why he wasn't married. So, and as I said, backing it up, we have a world. Look at the world. So to think that you want that perfect marriage, and you're 40 some odd years old, Danica Patrick, and I'm not talking to her because she's never going to watch my video, but to tell her, look, that ship has sailed. You're not going to have what I have in this lifetime, but that doesn't mean you can't have it in the next life. It's like I wanted to be wealthy, but I'm not wealthy in this life. And it's okay, because what I have, I am so content with, like the Zen master thing I was telling you about. I am just super content with the blessings and everything that I have. Again, okay, so this part of the video's over. I guess I don't need to rehash it out any further than that. But I do want to say that I did want to talk about love, because love is what makes that marriage become perfect. Love is what, rather than say make, let's put it this way, assists that marriage to be perfect, assists in your children loving you, assists in helping you that are watching this video. That love scenario, it's almost like a chemical, for instance, and you could take anything that you're dealing with and add that chemical of love, and it alters the makeup, the configuration, whatever it is. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about love right now, and then maybe I don't, since I won't be able to make a video next week. Love is like, I was thinking, I don't know how to compare it to anything, but I was thinking, and this is a terrible example, but it's what I came up with. It's like, love is like a pickup truck, okay? And you say, well, what is the aspect of this pickup truck that you're identifying as love? And you could say, well, it can carry heavy things. Carrying heavy things is what a pickup truck can do. Okay, well, can a bicycle carry heavy things? Well, certainly it can, relative to the size of the bicycle and everything. But heavy, again, is the aspect of love. And so you can apply this chemical of love to anything that there is. It doesn't matter what it is. You can apply this chemical of love. And I'm saying chemical because I don't know what else to relate it to right now, but it's an aspect of God. If God's the pickup truck and God is the one of the aspects of God is this chemical of love, you can apply that chemical to anything and it will change it. So if you take, for instance, Satan is everything that God is with the exception of that chemical. There is no chemical in Satan. That chemical of love does not reside within Satan. But Satan is everything else that God is. So when you take, for instance, this is part of the reason we're in this physical reality is to learn exactly what I'm telling you now. So you grow up in this physical reality and you can see like police officers. They are like Satan, for instance. They have no love within them. Now, you can argue if you want against me and say, well, that's not true. No. If you don't do that, because no police officers have love in them. What they are they're like Satan. They uphold the law, the rules. They if you don't comply, they'll shoot and fucking kill you. Even if you do comply, they'll maybe shoot and fucking kill you. They are like Satan on the planet. And then another way of looking at them is like, well, we're very grateful for police officers because they get rid of the criminals and they keep them off the street, and we can live in our homes safely because we have police officers. Well, yeah, but they can also kick down your door for no fucking reason and shoot you in the head, and there's nothing you can do about it. And they can just say, well, I'm sorry, it was a mistake, I had the wrong address. Okay, but still, you're dead. And I don't want to harp on it because you can tell I don't have very much respect for police, which I do not, by the way. But that's an example. You got police that are without love, and then you've got, I don't know, a rabbi or some Zen master or me or your loving wife or your mother, for instance. Your mother is typically that's a very good example. Compare your mother, if you had a good mother that wasn't an authoritarian. She would do things differently. She wouldn't just haul a gun out and shoot you because you're not eating your dinner fast enough or whatever. She would, in the end, it's not important. If you're not going to eat your dinner, so what? I'm not going to beat the fucking hell out of you or shoot you or whatever because I love you. But a cop, they'll fucking kill you if you don't eat your breakfast or something. And I'm using hyperbole, of course. But I'm trying to make a point. The chemical of love changes everything. If a police officer utilized love to the fullest extent, which none of them do, then they would be completely and utterly different. They wouldn't stand around and watch their fellow friends choke someone to death. They wouldn't participate in all their hateful methodologies. They wouldn't go out and harass people for just inane, stupid things. They're like Nazis that participated in the gassing of Jews, for instance. It's like, and I know I'm getting off on this tangent, but I'm trying to talk about love. And the Nazis could go home every night and go, well, I put in a good day's work today. And, oh, sweetheart, what did you get done today when you were at work? Well, I gassed 50,000 Jews today, and then we put them in a furnace and burned them all into ashes. Oh, that was a very good day of work then. Yeah, it was hard. Man, it was really hard. I worked hard. I had to sweat. Okay, see, but he's following the laws and the rules and probably getting awards for his hard work and stuff like that. but there's no love in that person's heart and soul. Do you see that? You see the difference? And then you take another person with love, and they would be doing the same kind of work, but they would never do the hateful things that others are doing under any circumstances. In other words, you could arrest a child molesting fucking murderer and treat the person that you just caught and with handcuffs and treat them with respect. Don't matter how fucking horrible they are, you treat them with respect, with kindness. And then when you throw their asses in prison they would be treated with kindness and treated with love and respect. No matter, because even Jesus says everything is forgivable except for the sin against the Holy Ghost, which I've talked with you about before. So if it's all forgivable, where does that put you if you're the fucking asshole to these criminals? It puts you in a very bad position. Exercise love in everything you do. That doesn't mean you don't have to defend yourself. If you're being attacked by a bunch of people, you can shoot them to death. There's nothing wrong with that. But do it out of love. And respect the people that you're having to kill. I know I sound like an idiot telling you these things, but it's true. Love changes everything. Love is the aspect of God. God has a family with billions of children on this earth, and there's so much horrible hell going on. Half the people on this planet are fucking demons, for God's sakes. They're never going to repent. Ever. This is the life they've chosen. They're never going to repent. It doesn't matter. That's what they chose. Okay, well, as the parent or the God of this reality, you have to deal with it. And guess what? They still exist here. With the snap of a finger, they could all be vanished into nothingness, sent back to Brahman. Just like that. But he doesn't do it because he respects their right to exist and to become as bad as they want to become. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to end this video. I guess I'm not going to harp on it anymore. I'll move on to other things in the future. So let me bring this down a little bit so I'm not so tense and everything, and tell you, seriously, I love you. Seriously, I love my wife with all my heart, with everything. She is my God on this physical plane of existence. I am the same to her. We respect each other with the greatest respect. And then my spiritual God of all is Brahma, and Jesus is my Savior, that is the greatest example of what you could possibly become in this physical reality. So, I love you. I pray for you daily. I hope that if you're in a situation where you too are past the stage where you could possibly have an eternal marriage, don't be depressed. Recognize that you're in grade 1 and just because you're in like the 8th grade or whatever doesn't mean you throw in the towel and go, damn, I'm not a college graduate. You're not a college graduate yet. You're going to be, but just not yet. Just don't ever throw in the towel. Be content with where you are. And if, like I said, if you're too old and you haven't gotten to this perfect marriage thing that I'm talking about, knowing that it's something that has to be accomplished, and if that is something you desire, then great. That is a great desire to have. Keep working at it. Does that mean when you are, say, 40, 50, 60 years old, you don't have that in your life, you're just going to throw in the towel and go, ah, fuck it, I'm done with this, blah, blah. No. You might very well get married and have a wonderful life the rest of your life at 40, 50, 60 years old, but you're not going to have the perfect marriage with children and all these other things that are going to test and try you and put you through the ringer. And then you come out the other end and you go, wow, that's quite a ride. Is God doing the exact same thing? Isn't God going through that right now with his children here on earth? They're all going through this difficult struggle. He could snap his fingers and have it over with right now, but he doesn't. He's working on it, hoping that we work together, hoping that we integrate love into our lives and into everything we do. Take that chemical that is God of love and integrate that into your life, and it will change everything. It'll change your marriage, it'll change your children. It may not make them perfect, because free will gives them the right to dictate their futures, and you have to respect that. That's why I said, as a cop, you have to respect the criminal and treat them with respect, because they have free will to choose whatever they want to do. And if you beat the fucking hell out of them and kick them and kill them and all that kind of shit, do you think that's going to fucking change them? No, it is not going to change them. The only thing that's going to change them is to love them. Nothing else will change them. If you want to make people comply with the law like Satan does, great. Go for it. You have all the fucking power, the guns, the ammunition, the whips, the torture chambers. You have everything you fucking need to make compliance happen. Be a fucking Satan. That's your free will. I choose to apply love to every condition and hope for the best. That's what God does. That's what I'm going to do, and I hope that that's what you do. Thank you very much for putting up with my rant, and I hope the best for you. I love you. I really, really, really do. I really, really want to see you as my eternal friends for all time and all eternity. And that's why I make these videos, because I love you, because I want to teach you what God has taught me. And then hopefully someday you will verify the same way that I had to, that these things I am telling you are true. Thank you for watching. Bye.